1 hour until touchdown at Kennedy Space Center.
Yeah, 812 heater for APU-3. We should be able to give you a go in about 5 minutes on that heater.
Copy, about 5 minutes on the heater.
Spacecraft communicator Steve Frick letting Commander Steve Lindsey on board Discovery know that he still has one good auxiliary power unit running, and they're waiting for the heater signatures to settle down on APU number 3 before giving the go for the power up of the other 2 auxiliary power units. We're now just under 1 hour from touchdown at Kennedy Space Center at 8:14 a.m. Central Time, 9:14 Eastern. All systems looking good on Discovery as Commander Steve Lindsey, pilot Mark Kelly, and mission specialist Lisa Nowak, Mike Fossum, Stephanie Wilson, and Piers Sellers make their way to the conclusion of the STS-121 mission. And now with an update from Kennedy Space Center on the convoy's preparation to receive the shuttle and its crew, let's go to Bruce Buckingham at the Kennedy Space Center.
This is Kennedy Space Center shuttle landing operations. Ground operations and work to receive the orbiter Discovery continues without problem today as the shuttle begins its descent to touchdown at Kennedy Space Center's shuttle landing facility at 9:14 a.m. Eastern Time. Today's landing of the shuttle marks the 62nd landing at Kennedy Space Center in the history of the Space Shuttle program. Discovery will cross the west coast of Florida in the Fort Myers, Port Charlotte area, pass northwest of Lake Okeechobee, and then on into Kennedy Space Center. The array of visual aids and guidance equipment at the SLF is all up and operational today as NASA's Landing Recovery Director, Ted Mosteller, has indicated he and his team are ready to support landing and post-landing activities. Weather at K.S.C. is acceptable and the powerful twin sonic booms will be heard in the K.S.C. area just a couple of minutes prior to touchdown. Once the vehicle is safely rolled to a stop on the runway, safing operations will commence and the flight crew will be preparing to exit the vehicle.
Discovery, you can take
Following APU shutdown and once the crew system securing begins, the crew hatch will be opened and the 6 astronauts will begin their exit. The hatch will be open about 25 minutes following touchdown, and we expect the entire crew to have left the vehicle about 30 minutes after that, or about an hour after landing. The crew transport vehicle, or the CTV, will be used to assist the crew, allowing them to egress the vehicle and remove their reentry suits easier and quicker. We expect to see some of the astronauts walking around the orbiter prior to being taken back to their crew quarters, and if they choose to do this, NASA TV will cover the event. After this traditional walk-around of the orbiter, the astronauts will be taken to their quarters in the operations and checkout building, where they will meet with their families and continue with their post-flight medical examinations. And once the vehicle is safely on the ground and the astronauts have left, ground crews at Kennedy will begin to remove the experiments and other stowed materials from the orbiter's middeck as necessary. About 4.5 hours after landing, the orbiter will be towed to the orbiter processing facility for post-flight deservicing. And preparations will then begin for the orbiter's next space shuttle mission, STS-114, which is currently scheduled for launch in December. All continues to go well here at Kennedy Space Center in preparation for Discovery's landing, rounding out this 13-day mission to the International Space Station. This is Kennedy Space Center shuttle landing operations, and we now return to mission commentator Kelly Humphreys from the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas.
Can you confirm that the switch on A12 is actually in the center position? It's kind of hard to see.
Discovery Houston, Thanks for calling. That switch is off. It is in the center position. Good config.
Okay, thank you.
This is Mission Control Houston, now about 20 minutes until the entry interface point. That's where the space shuttles begins to feel the effects of the Earth's atmosphere. At an altitude of about 400,000 feet, we're now 52 minutes from touchdown. 50 minutes from touchdown at Kennedy Space Center's runway 33 at Kennedy Space Center. Landing of Shuttle Discovery scheduled for 8:14 a.m. Central Time. Another look at the cameras on top of the vehicle assembly building in Florida. Propulsion Systems officer reports that the dump of the excess propellants in the forward reaction control system thrusters is underway. Entry Flight Director Steve Stitch and the team continuing to monitor Discovery's progress as it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston with a quick weather update.
Go ahead, Houston.
Discovery, it's still looking good. Not much new. The latest observation was 7,000 few, 11,000 broken, and 30,000 broken at the SLF. The winds are bouncing around a little bit out of the south between 170 and 190, 4, and then they just peaked up to about 6 or 10. Mostly tailwind, just a little bit from the left, and we'll keep our eye on that. Right now, 3-3 is still looking good. If the winds do pick up, we're going to consider either short field or redesign to 1-5. Not likely, though, at this time. Both ends are just fine. The STA says it's a very smooth day at K.S.C. And when you're coming down, they're breaking out at 11-5, so it should be relatively clear below 11-5.
Okay, copy all that. Thanks.
One last update, the new altimeter for K.S.C. 3004.
Copy 3004.
This is Mission Control Houston, now 15 minutes away from the point where Discovery will encounter the Earth's atmosphere at an altitude of about 400,000 feet. Its reaction control system thrusters continuing to control the descent into the Earth's atmosphere. 46 minutes from touchdown.
Houston, Discovery, APU starts complete. Go into SSME hard repress.
We copy and concur.
And 3 good auxiliary power units now fired up and ready to support landing. Discovery traveling at 16,600 miles an hour. Just over 11 minutes away from the entry interface point at 400,000 feet altitude. Discovery now orbiting over the South Pacific just off the southern tip of New Zealand. Commander Steve Lindsey making his 4th landing aboard a space shuttle. Pilot Mark Kelly and Mission Specialist Piers Sellers both making their 2nd. And Lisa Nowak, Mike Fossum, and Stephanie Wilson all about to make their 1st return to Earth from orbit.
Discovery Houston, I'm sure you already know this, but hydraulic fluid thermal conditioning is not required today.
Ten minutes to enter interface.
We copy that.
Space Shuttle Discovery now 40 minutes from touchdown at Kennedy Space Center, aiming for a one-way a landing on runway 33. Here's a look at the runway. Entry Flight Director Steve Stitch and his team continuing to watch over their systems here in the Mission Control Center in Houston, Texas. Discovery now about 7 minutes away from achieving entry interface at about an altitude of 400,000 feet, where it'll begin feeling the effects of the Earth's atmosphere. and its flight control systems will begin to control. Three good auxiliary power units continuing to provide hydraulic pressure that will be needed by those flight control systems. Five minutes to entry interface, 36 minutes to touchdown. Discovery currently at an altitude of 108 statute miles. .6,300 miles to the runway. Discovery is now 3 minutes away from entry interface point. 96 statute miles in altitude. 5,900 miles from the runway. Traveling at Mach 24.8. Three good auxiliary power units, ready to provide the hydraulic pressure needed to control the aero surfaces. 34.5 minutes to touchdown. Minute and a half to entry interface. Discovery speed at Mach 24. Altitude of 84 statute miles, 5,400 miles from the landing site. Altitude dropping at 400 miles an hour. And now, Discovery's aero control systems beginning to feel the effects of the atmosphere. In about 5 minutes, first roll command to the left began to slip off the excess speed. Discovery's altitude now 3 miles. Just under 5,000 miles to go to the runway. Again, this runway will be runway 33. Discovery coming in from the southeast. Just over 30 minutes to touchdown. Discovery speed, 17,000 miles an hour, 66 miles in altitude, 4,600 miles to the runway. 27 minutes to touchdown. Discovery's altitude 50 miles. Speed Mach 24.9. 3,700 miles to the runway. Discovery in a left roll now. Space Shuttle Discovery now at 25 minutes from touchdown. Altitude 47 miles. Speed Mach 24.3. 3,200 miles to the runway. Approaching the coast of Central America from a southwesterly direction to take it directly overhead of the Yucatan Peninsula on the way to Florida. 3 good auxiliary power units.
Discovery Houston with a weather update.
Yeah, comm is really scratchy.
Okay, we copy, and Inco tells me that's expected. Just to give you an update of what we're looking at, there's a small buildup that just popped up in about the last 10 minutes just south of the 3-3 hack. We're considering a redes to 1-5. We just want to look at it for another minute or two before we decide. And I've got some numbers for 1-5 if you're ready to copy.
Okay, I missed the first part of that because of the comm. Could you repeat? And we're ready to copy the numbers.
And Steve, we're looking at the weather around the SLF. There was a small buildup that just popped up in the last 10 minutes or so that's just south of the 3-3 hack. So we're looking at a possible redes to runway 15. We just want to look at it for another minute or two before we decide. There's a high overcast, so glare won't be any concern. The touchdown conditions are good at both ends, and it's very smooth at both ends. In fact, there'll be a little headwind on 15. And I have the touchdown numbers if you're ready.
Okay, ready to copy.
On 15, we're currently looking at touching down at 2400 at 2:05. It's a slight right crosswind, 6 or 7 knots or so, about 4 knots a headwind. Bloomer reports that the earliest you'll go into the clouds is about 180, and you'll be out by 9,000 at the bottom. Be about 23% on the boards. You have about 50 seconds from Mach 1 to the hack and about 1 minute and 15 afterwards. Pilot flying is fine either way. You'll have a little more time on the hack, however.
Okay, we copy all those numbers. Was that left or right hack?
Sorry, forgot to give that to you. It's a left overhead 240 degree hack, and it'll be nom-nom, nominal aim point, nominal speed brake for 1.5. And again, we're not committing to the redes yet. Just wanted to give you some early words.
Okay, copy that.
Spacecraft communicator Steve Frick letting Steve Lindsey on board the Shuttle Discovery know that the team here on the ground is considering coming in from the opposite end of the runway. Runway 33 turns into runway 15 when viewed from the northeast. This being considered due to some thunderstorms that are building up in the area of the shuttle landing facility at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. No firm decision made. The change would mean a change in the heading alignment circle from a right turn to a left turn for Lindsey. Discovery 20 minutes from touchdown. Speed 15,000 miles an hour, 44 miles in altitude, 2,000 miles to the runway. "20 minutes to landing as entry flight director Steve Stitch considers his options. Discussing the weather situation with the spaceflight meteorology group here in Houston. "1,800 miles to the landing site, altitude 43 miles. Speed Mach 21. Discovery in a left roll. Currently undergoing maximum heating conditions. Speed Mach 20, altitude 41 miles. 1,400 miles to the landing runway. Discovery headed for a touchdown at 8:14 a.m. Central Time, 9:14 Eastern. As Discovery continues its return home to Earth following the STS-121 mission to the International Space Station, Expedition 13 crew aboard the station is watching the entry from on orbit. Commander Paul Vitogradov and flight engineers Jeff Williams and Tomas Reiter getting a bird's eye view of this reentry. "16 minutes to touchdown. Speed Mach 17, 38 miles altitude, 1,000 miles from the runway. Discovery passing over Belize, soon to cross over the Yucatan Peninsula on its way to the Florida Peninsula. Three good auxiliary power units continuing to provide hydraulic pressure for the aero control systems. "15 minutes to touchdown. Speed Mach 16, 36 miles up."
Discovery Houston, after looking at the weather, we do think we like 1-5 better, so we'd like you to redez to runway 15 at this time.
Copy, Houston, redes on the 15.
At 7:59 a.m. Central Time, spacecraft communicator Steve Frick telling Commander Steve Lindsey on Discovery that they would like him to choose runway 15.
Just a reminder, but we'll take channel 8 on the MLS.
We're working that. And that's complete.
Again, this will mean a change to a left-hand turn when he reaches the heading alignment circle, making a 240-degree turn to align with the runway. 14 minutes from touchdown. Speed Mach 13.7, altitude 34.5 miles, range to touchdown 667 miles. "13 minutes to touchdown. Speed Mach 11.6, altitude 32.5 miles. Distance to the runway 518 miles. Three good auxiliary power units providing hydraulic pressure for the aero surfaces.
Discovery Houston, Energy, ground track, and nav are go. We have you touching down 2,400 feet at 2:05.
Copy all that with an echo.
UHF just came in. We're working on the echo.
Okay, no problem.
Discovery Houston, take TACANs.
Taking TACAN.
Discovery now 10 minutes 45 seconds to landing. Commander Steve Lindsey given the go-ahead to take tactical air navigation data. Radar tracking showing shuttle is on track for a planned landing. Kennedy Space Center runway 15.
Okay. Discovery Houston, take GPS in the backup.
Copy, GPS in the backup.
Steve Frick telling Steve Lindsey it's okay to take global positioning system data in the backup mode. Supplying data to the backup flight system. 9 minutes 45 seconds to touchdown. Speed Mach 6.2. Altitude 25 miles. 214 miles to the runway. Discovery approaching Florida's southwestern coast. 3 good auxiliary power units. Nine minutes to touchdown. In about 4 minutes, we should be able to see the pilot's point of view camera looking out Discovery's forward windows. Air data probes being deployed to provide more precise navigation information. Mach 4.5. 21 miles up. 139 miles to the runway.
Discovery Houston, we did not see the right probe come out. We'd like you to wiggle the right air data probe switch.
Okay, we're checking it. Hey, we've got it in deploy, but the switch is really loose.
Okay, we copy. We're checking. Discovery Houston, we'd like you to enable stow the right probe and redeploy.
Pilot Mark Kelly on board the Shuttle Discovery reporting that a loose switch on one of the 2 air data probes.
Take air data.
Taking air data.
Discovery Houston, we'd like you to hold off on taking your data to nav in the pass.
Okay. did that, Houston. We'll do the NM26.
Discovery Houston, the residuals are up, but they're coming back down. You can keep it in auto.
Okay, going back to auto.
Five minutes, 30 seconds to touchdown. This view from the camera on top of the vehicle assembly building, looking at the Space Shuttle runway at Kennedy Space Center. Discovery on its approach. Speed Mach 1.7, 12.5 miles altitude, 68 miles to the runway.
And Houston, Discovery, no joy on the right probe.
We concur. The left probe is looking good, however.
Okay, we see that.
3 good auxiliary power units. However, one of the air data probes did not deploy.
Houston, you're on energy approaching the hack. No changes to winds and weather. Your nominal shoot deploy.
Copy all, nominal shoot deploy.
Guidance officer reports that the left air data probe providing good data. Four and a half minutes to touchdown. We're receiving pilot point of view cameras out the heads-up display on the flight deck of Discovery. Discovery now traveling at Mach 1. Altitude 9 miles. Range of the runway 68 miles.
Discovery Houston, no need to respond. Just to let you know the right probe did finally deploy and its air data also looks good.
Okay, good news, thank you.
Commander Steve Lindsey now actively controlling the descent of Discovery. Speed 5,500 miles an hour, 7 miles altitude, 68 miles to the runway. Correction, 22 miles to the runway. Discovery now 3 minutes to touchdown. Pilot Mark Kelly taking a turn at the stick. Speed 500 miles an hour. Altitude 5 miles. 17 miles to the runway.
Discovery Houston on at the 180.
Roger.
Discovery on target at the 180 mark of the heading alignment circle. Commander Steve Lindsey back in control. Three good auxiliary power units. Both air data probes deployed. Speed 450 miles.
Discovery Houston on at the 90.
Roger.
Discovery on track at the 90-degree mark of the heading alignment circle. Altitude 15,000 feet. Speed 420 miles an hour. Nine miles and a minute and a half to touchdown. Again, this is the view at the heads-up display.
Copy, field in sight.
Commander Steve Lindsey reports he has the landing field in sight. Speed 309 miles an hour. Altitude 6,300 feet. .5 miles to the runway. All systems looking good as Discovery comes in for a landing. .30 seconds to touchdown. Altitude 250 feet. Gear down and locked. And your touchdown. Nose gear touchdown. Discovery's crew completing a 5.3 million mile mission to restore the International Space Station to an assembly-ready status and proving that they can use a 50-foot long boom as a heat shield repair platform. We'll stop.
We'll stop, Houston.
Roger, we'll stop. Welcome back, Discovery, and congratulations on a great mission, expanding our knowledge and experience with orbiter repair and bringing the space station back to a full crew complement. We have no immediate deltas to post-landing, and we'll meet you on page 5-3.
Thanks, it was a great mission, really great mission, and enjoyed the entry and the landing, and we're going over to 5-3 now.
And this is Mission Control Houston, the Space Shuttle Discovery and its crew.
Discovery Houston for Steve. We are ready at this time for a rad reconfig on page 5-8.
Okay, copy, rad reconfig right now.
This is Mission Control Houston, the STS-114 Crew of Discovery, safely home.
We're on page 5-4 and 5-5.
We copy, thanks.
T umbilical doors.
We're ready, Mark.
Coming open.
Discovery safely on the runway. Commander Steve Lindsey, pilot Mark Kelly, and mission specialist Lisa Nowak, Mike Fossum, Stephanie Wilson, and Piers Sellers back on the ground. Again, after a 5.3 million mile mission to the International Space Station.
You did great.
All three auxiliary power units working well. No changes to the post-landing.
On your controller, alpha to sec on.
We concur, Steve, and we're ready for that at this time. We like the temps.
No changes to the post-landing configurations for Discovery's crew. Mechanical systems officer reporting he didn't see any differences in the performance of auxiliary power unit 1, which had exhibited a minor leak throughout the mission. Discovery's crew now in the process of safing the vehicle systems. All systems working well on Discovery's landing today, with the minor exception of one of the 2 air data probes that did not want to deploy immediately. Discovery landing on Kennedy Space Center's runway 15 after a late change in the designation of runways. Due to some late building clouds in the area of the runway.
Discovery Houston for Mark. As I'm sure you know, hydraulic load tests will not be required today.
Roger, not required. I'm complete with the umbilical door opening.
We copy, thanks.
And Houston, if you concur, I'll set the body flap.
Discovery Houston, we're ready for the body flap, Mark.
And Houston, body flap set.
We copy.
Copy. And Houston, do you want the right probe back to deploy?
Discovery Houston, we concur. Right probe back to deploy.
Copy. Houston, RJDs are off site, head strike, shoot, and landing gear safe.
We copy, thank you.
And Houston, go for Ops 9.
We're still checking, it'll be one more minute.
Okay.
Discovery Houston, Steve, you have a go for Ops 9 transition.
Copy and work. And Houston, if you like the M.E.T, we'll go over to Ops 9.
We like the M.E.T. Discovery Houston, your go for SSME repo and the speed brake repositioning on the bottle of page 5-7 will not be required.
Copy, Houston.
And this is Mission Control Houston with a good up-close look at the aft end of the Space Shuttle Discovery following today's landing at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Discovery got right into a smooth landing at the end of a 5.5 million mile mission to the International Space Station. Commander Steve Lindsey completing his fourth flight, and pilot Mark Kelly and mission specialist Piers completing their second flight. Lisa Nowak, Mike Fossum, and Stephanie Wilson all have one full space flight and landing to their credit now. It was a touch-and-go decision on the deorbit burn today, with weather forecasters waiting up to the last minute with Flight Director Steve Stitch of the entry team to make the call. And even after the deorbit burn had occurred, on the way to the landing site, flight controllers decided to switch runways. Instead of landing on runway 33, they went to runway 15 because of some clouds that were building in the area. Discovery made a 240-degree left-hand turn around the heading alignment circle before coming in for a smooth landing at Kennedy Space Center. Commander Steve Lindsey and the rest of the crew now in the process of safing the vehicle.
Discovery Houston, stand by on doffing, Steve, for just 1 second until we get clearance from the ground assessment team. But for Mark, you have a go for APU hide shutdown.
Roger, go for APU hide shutdown. And Houston putting TCS activation, deactivation at work. Or actually, I'll wait till you call me on that.
Yeah, we copy and concur with waiting just a little bit.
Houston Discovery APU hide shutdown is complete.
We copy, thanks. Discovery Houston, we're still waiting on the ground assessment for doffing suits, but at this time we can give you a go for extended power up. And for Steve, you can work GPS power down if you'd like on page 5-10. Just hold off on TCS deactivation.
Okay, we'll hold off on TCS deactivation, put GPS power down and work, and head over to extended power up.
This is Mission Control Houston, crew on board Discovery shutting down the auxiliary power units that provide the hydraulic pressure for the flight control systems during entry, and getting ready to power down the global positioning system antennas.
Houston Discovery, you ready for the post-landing MPS reconfig?
Discovery Houston, Mark, you are go for the post-landing MPS reconfig.
And work.
And this is Mission Control Houston. It's about time to begin our entry replays from Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
Discovery Houston, you are go to doff suits.
Roger, go to doff suits.
As Commander Steve Lindsey gets the word from spacecraft communicators Steve Frick that they are go to remove their reentry spacesuits.
Houston, here comes the RCS on south test.
We're ready and watching. Discovery Houston for ground commanding. At this time, we'd like the GPC-5 mode switch to standby.
K5's coming to standby.
Discovery Houston for Steve, you have a go for PCS deactivation, and you also have a go for system deact for extended power up while Mark's working the RCS ohms valve test.
Okay, I'll pick that up after I finish helping them with these.
We copy. Discovery Houston, just to offer something up, if it's going to be a minute or two before Steve works system deact for extended power up, we can give Mark a go for vent door purge positioning. We just don't want to do them simultaneously.
Okay, Houston, could I finish systems deact for extended power up? The last three steps, I already put that procedure in work.
Absolutely, Mark.
Okay, I'll finish that and I'll go to the vent door purge. And Houston, if you like the NBAT, I'll go ahead and contract the set.
Discovery Houston, we copy Steve. We didn't realize you were that close. As long as Mark's holding off on vent door purge positioning, we like your NBAT and we're ready for the set contraction.
Okay, here it comes. He's just make sure. I think I've gotten everything prior to that. If you would check me over.
No, Steve, that looks fine. We saw PCS deactivation complete, and the set contraction was the first thing. So, no, your config looks good.
Okay, here it comes. Houston Discovery for the GPC powered on. Just FYI, when I took forward to standby halt, I got the fail light for 1, but I don't get the 4 lighting up, the self-fail.
Discovery Houston, we copy. Thanks for those words, Steve. It's no